So, I get to watch a movie that I unironically like this time. This is weird. I don't know how to feel about that. Why do I like it? Well, the plot is really good. This movie has everything. It has ghosts, Tom Hiddleston, romance, Tom Hiddleston, strong and distinct female characters, and Tom Hiddleston. This movie is also very well directed, in my opinion. It has a strong visual style. The colors are vibrant and distinct, as opposed to some of the other movies I could mention. It's not all desaturated. The dialogue is also pretty good. It doesn't feel as stilted as some other movies that use supernatural elements to tell a tragic love story. Content warning. This video will contain references and imagery of adult language, violence, murder, ghosts, dead bodies, sickness, poison, gaslighting, sex, incest, scary sights, and the supernatural television show. If any of those things are going to be too much for you to deal with, I understand, and I hope that you find a video that better fits your taste. Thank you. This review will contain spoilers for Supernatural up until season 12, I think. I don't know. And Crimson Peak. It is a very good movie, and I highly recommend watching it if you're the type of person who gets upset about spoilers or spoiling the plot of something. I could try and review it without spoilers, or at least without major spoilers, but that sounds difficult and kind of silly. Go watch the movie and get back to me. Thank you. We open on our main character, Edith Cushing, played by Mia Wasikowska, surrounded by snow, telling us that she knows that ghosts exist and that the first time she ever encountered one was when she was 10. Her mother had recently passed from cholera and later scares her daughter shitless by appearing in this cool, half spectral, half skeleton form. It warns her to stay out of a place called Crimson Peak, but then fucks off and gives no context for any of this.
When the time comes, beware of Crimson Peak.
We cut to years later, where our girl Edith is taking her manuscript to some publisher. On the way, she meets an old friend named Dr. Alan McMichael, played by Charlie Hunman. He informs her that some aristocrat is in town wooing his sister. His mother and sister and some other women approximately Edith's age come down and are talking about the same aristocrat. They are all smitten with him because he's awfully handsome. Edith is nonplussed and calls baronets parasites feeding off of the work of real people.
What's a baronet?
Well, an aristocrat of some sort.
A man that feeds off land that others work for him. A parasite with a title.
Which is based as hell, honestly. All of the other women are offended by this, and this lets us know that she's a strong woman and not like other girls. TMCR. She meets with the publisher, and he compliments her feminine handwriting, but says that the story's kind of shit. It needs a love story. We transition to her telling her father, Carter, played by Jim Beaver of Supernatural fame, and he tries to comfort her. He gives her a fancy pen, which she says is nice, but she wants to use one of his typewriters at his office to hide the fact that she's a woman when sending out her manuscripts. Apparently, he agrees because we cut to her typing in the office, and that's when our boy Thomas Sharp, played by Tom Hiddleston, who you might recognize from some small indie projects like High Rise or The Avengers, comes in. He's meeting with Daddy, and takes a look at her manuscript. He compliments it and says whoever wrote it is talented. She's delighted by this and reveals that she was the one who wrote it. He says that it has promise. Sharp meets with Daddy Cushing and some other business people, presenting some kind of excavation machine. He has a small model of it and says that his homeland has the sickest clay. The good shit. It makes the best bricks. It's triple C thick. I don't know anything about clay, so I couldn't say whether or not this is accurate.
The Sharp clay mines have been royal purveyors of the purest scarlet clay since 1796. In its liquid form, it is so rich in ore and so malleable that it can produce the strongest bricks and tiles.
But Cushing is unimpressed by Tom, presumably because Hiddleston never made eye contact with him, which would melt even the stoniest of men. From there, we cut to Daddy preparing for the party. Edith isn't going to this party because she's too busy being too cool for social niceties, because she's a rebel. She sees him and Dr. McMichael off and does some Victorian Googling of the area where the dreamy baronet is from. Mom's ghost comes back and interrupts her research to tell Edith again to stay the fuck away from Crimson Peak. Sharp stops by and is like, "Hey, you want to come to the dance with me?" And Edith is like, "Nah, dog, that's not my scene." But then she realizes that, one, there's ghosts up in this bitch, and two, it's Tom Hiddleston.
I know he's going to the reception at the McMichael house, which is my destination too.
But that's in Bidwell Parkway, sir. This is Maston Park. You're very, very lost.
That I am. And I desperately need your help.
My help with what?
Miss Cushing, the language for one thing. As you can plainly see, I do not speak a word of American. Tell me, why would you want to stay here? All alone.
Apparently she gets ready at record speed, because the next scene just cuts to her being in a full dress with her hair done, and we meet Lucille Sharp, our boy's sister, played by Jessica Chastain. She's really good at the piano, apparently. The crowd wants Thomas to teach them how to waltz like an Englishman, which I think is like walking like an Egyptian, but way more posh. Everyone expects him to dance with one of the mean girls from earlier, but he's like, "Nah, fam. Girls that can read are super cool." They dance, and Edith is nervous, but apparently being that close to him just soaks everything below her waist. Everyone is super impressed by the dance. Then we cut to Bobby Singer at some kind of gentleman's club. He hires a private eye to investigate Tom. Edith visits Dr. McDreamy, and we find out that he believes in ghosts and appreciates a good mystery. We skip ahead some amount of time, and Sharp has apparently read more of her book. She has added a romance subplot, and then we have a scene with Lucille calling her pretty but fragile, and how the plain moths of her homeland feed on pretty butterflies. Daddy Cushing calls the Sharps into his office and reveals that he's figured out the whole gambit. He offers them a check and tells them to get the fuck out of town, and that Tommy has to break Edith's heart. He reluctantly agrees. He does this by insulting her book. He tells her that she's a shit writer who knows nothing about love or human emotion. And she starts crying. And who wouldn't? If someone said that about my book, Ghostly Bodies, linked down below, I might defenestrate them, even if it is Tom Hiddleston. The next day, someone murders Bobby Singer again, and this time, he doesn't even get the benefit of being a ghost attached to a flask. That's fucking bullshit. The person that murders him is dark-haired and wearing men's shoes, but we don't know who they are. Tommy sends a letter to Edith and her manuscript back. He confesses that the only reason that he put on that show was because her dad made him. She doesn't question this at all and runs off to find him at the hotel. But they've already checked out. But wait, he's still there. They kiss. Gross. we find out that
Dad's on a hunting trip, and he hasn't been home in a few days.
wait, fuck, he's dead. Which, I guess, to be fair, happens to both John Winchester and Bobby Singer, so easy mistake to make, really. Then we cut to Allerdale Hall, Tom's home. Apparently, he and Edith got hitched off screen and traveled to England. There's a puppy that comes out from nowhere, and Edith does the right thing and immediately adopts it. The newlyweds walk into the mansion, and it's kind of a shit show, honestly. It's run down as hell.
I know, it's a disgrace. We try to maintain the house as best we can, but with the cold and the rain, it's impossible to stop the damp and erosion. The wood is rotting, and the house is sinking.
Tom fucks off somewhere, and Edith sees a ghost. Then Tom comes back and tells her not to go downstairs into the mine. That's a big no-no. They catch up with Lucille, who gives her brother a super long hug. Like, so long. She greets Edith with some amount of reticence. Edith takes a bath and plays fetch with her new dog, who found a ball somewhere in the house. A ghost draws her attention, but doesn't really reveal itself fully. But it does kindly return the dog's ball. That ghost is a good Samaritan. Lucille is back playing the piano and then reveals that her mother was hella abusive and that her childhood was very lonely, with just Tommy to keep her company. Dr. McDreamy starts investigating Daddy Cushing's murder, expecting foul play. He discovers that Cushing wrote a check to the Sharps and is very suspicious of that. I told you that he liked mysteries. Edith plays fetch with her new dog in the world's most yellow dress, which is good because there's a lot of that bad, naughty color fucking everywhere. And she doesn't want to draw the ire of the Porcuvoldis. She finds Tom in his workshop where he makes little contraptions. They start getting hot and heavy, but Tom cuts it short before Lucille comes in and serves some tea. A ghost wakes her up, and that's mildly inconvenient, and she's also bleeding from the mouth for some reason. And the ghost directs her to a closet that has some wax cylinder recordings in it. The ghost then spooks her down to the plot. Down to the basement. Turns out that there's an old chest there with the initials ES emblazoned on it, and a lock that says Enola. It's locked right now, so that's a mystery for later. A little bit later, another ghost appears in the bathtub, and we get some ghost titty. Edith, being a good Victorian girl, is scared of titties and is hysterical. Lucille and Tom talk about it and imply that the marriage was just to get to Edith's father's estate, and Tom and Edith go into the post office just before a storm settles in. Edith gets a letter directed to Lady Sharp from Milan, Italy. It was revealed to Dr. McSteamy earlier that Daddy Cushing hired a PI by the lawyer that was handling the estate and its transfer to Edith, and thus to the Sharps. He asked to be put into contact with this PI, and that starts to pay off now.
It took some time to obtain that newspaper clipping. Prevent them from marrying. Because you see, Sir Thomas is already married.
He gets their address from the hotel that they were staying at and meets with the PI. The thing that Edith's father had learned and used to push them out of town was that Tom was already married, and that their mother was murdered. It's heavily implied that Tom might have done it. Edith convinces her husband to stay over at the post office, which apparently has a spare room that they can rent. Weird, but okay. And they finally fuck. We get some Tom Hiddleston butt. Nice. They get back the next day, and Lucille flips the fuck out. She was scared shitless that something may have happened to Tom. Edith notices that there is a key with the name Enola on it, which reminds her of the chest down in the basement mines. She steals it and finds a gramophone in it. She uses it to listen to those recordings that she found earlier. and slowly discovers that she's Tom's fifth wife and that the tea that they're feeding her is chock full of poison. That's mildly inconvenient. She tries to fuck off, but can't because there's this huge snowstorm, and she's been poisoned and is thus pretty weak. Lucille comes in to offer her some more tea, which she refuses, and then Lucy feeds her some porridge and tells her how she took good care of their mother when she was a child after her father broke her leg. Tom comes in and tells her to fuck off and warns Edith against the tea. Tom confronts Lucille a little later, who reveals that the porridge is also full of poison. But, it's English food. How could you tell the difference? Tom asks if they have to murder her, and Lucy is all like, fuck yeah we do.
Do we have to do this? Must we?
Yes.
You have no idea what they'd do. I would be taken from here, locked away. You would be hanged. We stay together, never apart.
The good doctor arrives at the post office and asks for directions to the house. A ghost wakes up a still very weak Edith and gives her a good old-fashioned video game arrow to check something out over there. Edith, being a pro gamer, follows these directions and discovers Lucy and Tom about to engage in the Devil's Tango. She backs away, and Lucille follows. Edith is all like, I always suspected it. You're not really siblings. And Lucy is all like, bitch, you don't even know. We totes are. Then pushes her off a balcony.
And you're not his sister. That's delightful. I am.
She falls on a very soft-looking banister, and then some snow. It is at this point I would like to use this opportunity for a message from the anime pope himself.
Don't fuck your sister! She's your sister!
Edith then wakes up, and Dr. McDreamy is treating her for a broken leg. He tries to escape with her, but is confronted by the incestuous couple, and Lucy just ups and stabs him, non-fatally. She then forces Tom to take over, and it's implied that she kills Edith's dog. Rude. Tom asks the good doctor where to stab that will do the least amount of damage. We cut to Tom taking him down to the basement, and then up to Lucy and our girl having some girl talk together. Lucy is trying to get Edith to sign over her estate and reveals the whole gambit. They had stolen money from several people, and she adores Tom. She took all of the punishments that her rather strict mother would do to them to spare him from the pain. She also reveals that it was her and not Tom that murdered both her mother and Edith's father.
He loved you. You should have seen his sad face when I smashed it on the sink.
Edith stabs her with that pen that her father gifted her at the beginning of the movie, and fucking bolts. She finds Tom and is understandably spooked by him, but he says, that he, totally loves her, for real, though. Oh my god.
Michael is still alive. He's still alive.
You lied to me!
I did.
You poisoned me! You told me you loved me!
I do.
He confronts Lucy and burns the estate signing, and then is like, hey sis, we can totes just ditch this place. It sucks ass. You and me. And Edith. And she's like, you want that bitch? How dare? And stabs him. He then cries a bloody tear and dies. Edith gets to the kitchen and grabs a knife. Lucy tries to stop her, but she manages to get to the elevator and down to the basement where our favorite doctor is. She hides, and then Lucy comes down and takes out this big-ass cleaver that she killed Mommy with. They get back up to the surface and have a hide-and-seek match. When Lucy catches up to her, Edith pulls the classic "What's that behind you, Trick?" And Lucy is like, "Psh, I'm not gonna fall for that." But then turns around, and Loki is using his powers to create an illusion right there behind her. This distracts Lucy enough to allow Edith to roll with advantage and knocks her out with the shovel. And then she hits her again because Lucy is one hell of a tough broad. Then we get to see ghostly Tom Hiddleston in all of his glory. Edith collects Dr. McDreamy, and they head out, and the narration from the beginning of the movie continues. She goes on about how ghosts are totally real, and about how ghosts become attached to places and emotions. It cuts to Lucy playing the piano as a drow ghost.
The ghost is just a metaphor.
So the ghosts in this movie are not the main thrust of the plot at all, which is revealed pretty early on. The ghosts are meant to be guides and a means of discovering what's going on around Edith, who is the only person who seems to be fully aware of the ghosts. It is implied that Dr. McDreamy believes in ghosts, but we never see anyone but Edith interact with them. Not to get too English Lit 101 on you, but I do think that the ghosts are a metaphor, just as the film implies. Not just for the past, but also for trauma. The first ghost that we meet is Edith's mother, who is shown to be this emaciated, partial skeleton, warning her to stay away from Crimson Peak. But it is also specifically her mom, just after she dies. The next ghost that we see is probably Enola Shiada, who discovered the plot for her own murder and resented the two that did it. We also find Tom and Lucy's mom in the tub with a cleaver in her head. If we read this as a metaphor for trauma, Edith's mom would represent her separation from the rest of the girls. She's a little weird and obsessed with the occult and pushes herself away from the interests of her peers. Even at the beginning of the movie, she's disinterested in love as a general concept, probably because her mother and father were broken apart by her mother's death, and she feels that she never got to say a proper goodbye. No one understands her trauma or the fact that she is haunted by this lack of maternal love. At least until Tommy Boy comes around and says that ghosts ain't nothing to fuck with. He is the first person to take her seriously. The ghost of Enola represents a failure on both Tom and Lucy's part. She tried to take care of Lucy and Tom's bastard child and leaves behind all of the things that ultimately reveal the plot to Edith. The gramophone, the pictures, she even points out the incest. Tom obviously feels really guilty over this, and he's a soft soul, pun intended, for someone complicit in murder. He doesn't want to murder Edith, and doesn't seem like he wanted to murder any of the other women either, which is why he pushed Lucy to do it. The ghost of Lucy and Tom's mother is Lucy's trauma, both as someone who literally punished her very strictly from the sounds of it, as well as the cause for her literally being put away after the murder. Lucy was put into an insane asylum after their mother's death, and an asylum in the 1800s is not going to be a great place for a woman. For anyone, really, but especially for a woman. The mother was also seemingly the isolating force that drove Lucy and Tom to start their relationship. Lucy becoming a ghost herself is also a reference to her own trauma. She is unable to let go of this place, the place that she was literally driven mad in. the place where she fell in love. Her trauma manifests literally by causing her to become trapped forever in a place that she doesn't even seem to really like. Tom's ghost looks visually different from every other ghost that we see in the film. All of the other ghosts are black or red and usually skeletal, having been consumed by this cursed land around them. Tom, instead, has an almost angelic white look about him. He is also one of two ghosts that seems to be relatively calm. Edith's mom and Enola all move in stuttering, pained movements. Mama Sharp seems to be in agony and can barely manifest. Lucy is relatively smooth moving, but she seems to be trapped playing the piano because that's what she always had to do in order to keep up appearances. But Tom's ghost, by comparison, seems serene. He seems to be at peace as long as Edith is safe. This movie is very good. It tells a pretty simple story and uses the supernatural as a tool to reveal the fucked up nature of humanity as opposed to being a malevolent force in and of itself. The ghosts are spooky and they are used for the occasional jump scare, but they're also not openly malicious at all. They are actually more helpful than most of the characters in the movie, because the story isn't about ghosts. To quote Edith herself,
Oh, it's not. It's more story with the ghost in it.
the theme of trauma being expressed by Edith, Lucy, and Tom in the form of ghosts works really well. The ghosts are very well designed, the colors are sharp, pun intended, and really drive home the differences. The acting is also really solid. I really believe that Tom is remorseful, that Lucille is unhinged and overly attached to Tom, the only person in the world that she cares about, that Dr. McDreamy cares about Edith, and that Bobby Singer, Carter Cushing, really cares about his daughter and wants to protect her. There are a couple of things that annoyed me a little, but they were small, like Edith being not like other girls. TM. CR. It's just a trope that I don't really care for. There also the fact that Dr. McSteamy and Daddy Cushing instantly know that something is up with the Sharps, but this really smart girl seems completely oblivious to it for some reason. That just seems a little weird to me, but I think that the visualizations are really strong. All of the ghosts at the Allerdale estate are literally bleeding wounds that won't heal, much like the grounds themselves that the Sharps just keep digging deeper and deeper into. The Sharps are so consumed with their past that they cannot heal. There are a lot of striking colors, the blood-red stone that bleeds through the snow, the yellow of Edith's dress, which sets her apart from every other character, the vibrant blue of Lucy's dress, symbolizing her forced coolness in the face of trauma and violence. The pacing of the movie is also just really good. I would highly recommend watching it. But as a reminder,
Don't fuck your sister. She's your sister. Now, you may discover that your sister is adopted. She may actually be your stepsister or your cousin. In such special circumstances, still don't have sex with her, you degenerate garbage human being.
hey, are you in the mood for another ghost story? Sweet. Me too. I fucking love ghost stories. That's why I wrote one myself. You can read it for free. There's a link in the description. It's not like this ghost story. It's a romantic comedy about a man who goes on vacation and meets a poltergeist. She moves in with him, and their friendship slowly grows into more. There are some traumatic elements. She's still a ghost after all. But really, it's just about people trying to navigate through the ins and outs of a weird relationship. So yeah, that's Crimson Peak. Tom Hiddleston is a hell of an actor, and it's nice to see him outside of his role as Loki. For the record, everyone is really good in this movie. I really hope that everyone gets more roles if they want that. I do have a couple more suggestions for some more reviews that people want to see. I don't know which ones I'm going to tackle first, but I think I'm going to try and alternate my content a little bit. Make sure that I'm not sticking to one genre too much. So I think that the next movie that I'm going to review is Fury, another David Ayer film that I hear is really good. Then it'll probably be Hereditary or Descent. I was asked to review the Wonder Woman movies or Birds of Prey, but I haven't decided how I'm going to handle those yet. If there's a movie that you would like my take on, throw it down there in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. While you're down there, why not give this video a like? And share it. Just hack into your local Burger King's AV feed and play it there. I'm sure the patrons will enjoy that. I'm still working on the whole time travel thing. It turns out that it requires not only just a lot of research money, but, like, math. And I'm not great at math. So I'll have to practice that. Until then, I'll just do more videos for you guys. Because I think this is a lot of fun. Until next time, this is Sean, the hopefully time-traveling movie critic, signing off.